Beijing, China, September 26, 2025. In the wake of an escalating geopolitical dispute over the future of TikTok in the United States, China has urged Washington to ensure a business environment that is open, fair, and non-discriminatory for foreign companies. The call came just hours after US President Donald Trump signed an executive order approving a new structure for the popular social media platform that reduces Chinese ownership to 20%. The decision, hailed by the White House as a national security safeguard, is viewed in Beijing as a significant test of how the world's two largest economies will navigate the complex mix of commerce, technology, and political rivalry. For more than 2 years, the future of TikTok's operations in the United States had hung in the balance. American officials have repeatedly voiced concerns over the app's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, alleging potential risks to US user data and national security. The dispute escalated to the point where, in September 2025, President Trump issued an executive order endorsing a deal that would limit Chinese stakes in TikTok's American operations to just 1/5. The order effectively reshaped the ownership of one of the world's most influential digital platforms. For Beijing, the decision underscored the mounting challenges Chinese firms face when operating in US markets. Officials described the outcome as a critical moment for international business norms. Responding to the development, China's foreign ministry used a routine press briefing in Beijing to articulate its stance. Ministry spokesman Guo Jiakun stressed that China continues to support dialogue and market-based solutions rather than political confrontation. Guo Jiakun said, "I want to reiterate that China's position on the TikTok issue is clear. The Chinese government respects the will of enterprises and welcomes them to conduct business negotiations on the basis of market rules, reaching a solution that balances interests in compliance with Chinese laws and regulations. We hope the US will provide an open, fair, and non-discriminatory business environment for Chinese companies investing in the United States." The remark, delivered in Mandarin at the ministry's headquarters, was one of the clearest signals yet that Beijing wants to avoid further politicization of cross-border business disputes. Guo's statement reflects Beijing's broader message: economic and trade relations should be driven by commercial considerations, not political maneuvering. While he refrained from directly criticizing the US order, his words underscored the tension between the two powers. Chinese officials have repeatedly expressed unease over what they view as Washington's growing tendency to use national security as a pretext for limiting Chinese firms' access to US markets. The spokesman's remarks also highlighted China's preference for negotiations between enterprises themselves rather than top-down government mandates. By emphasizing respect for market rules, Beijing appeared to suggest that the solution to the TikTok dispute should have come from commercial consensus rather than executive action. President Trump's executive order marks the culmination of months of discussions between ByteDance and a consortium of US investors. The new structure reportedly gives American stakeholders control over TikTok's US operations while limiting Chinese ownership to 20%. Supporters of the deal within the US government argue that this arrangement will shield American users from potential data security risks. The administration has long maintained that Chinese ownership of TikTok poses unacceptable vulnerabilities. Critics, however, have questioned whether the deal genuinely resolves the underlying security concerns or merely shifts the optics. They point out that much of TikTok's technology, including its algorithm, originates in China. For years, TikTok has been at the heart of the broader competition between Washington and Beijing over technology and data governance. The app's massive popularity among young Americans made it a high-profile target in the debate over how much access Chinese firms should have to Western digital markets. China, in turn, has accused the United States of unfairly weaponizing national security arguments to stifle competition. This dispute over TikTok has become a microcosm of that wider geopolitical contest. The Chinese Foreign Ministry's statement suggests that Beijing views the recent executive order not merely as a commercial decision, but as part of a broader trend of tightening restrictions on Chinese businesses abroad. Guo Jiakun's emphasis on openness and fairness was aimed not only at Washington, but also at global investors who closely watch China's responses to US actions. By framing its stance as one that respects enterprise autonomy and market principles, Beijing seeks to portray itself as a defender of global business norms, in contrast to what it depicts as Washington's politically motivated interventions. In recent years, China has sought to reassure foreign businesses that it remains committed to market-based policies, even as geopolitical tensions rise. Statements like Guo's are intended to underline that commitment. Chinese officials and companies have long complained that US measures, including export restrictions and investment reviews, unfairly single them out. The TikTok case, they argue, adds to the perception that Chinese firms face a higher bar when operating in the United States. Guo's call for a non-discriminatory business environment reflects these concerns. By using that phrase, Beijing signaled that it believes Chinese companies should be treated under the same rules as competitors from other countries. Inside China, the US decision to limit ByteDance's role has been met with a mix of disappointment and resolve. Chinese media outlets have largely framed the move as part of Washington's broader push to curb China's technological rise. Nationalist commentators have urged Beijing to respond firmly to what they describe as unfair treatment, while more moderate voices have emphasized the importance of continued engagement to avoid further economic fragmentation. Business leaders, meanwhile, are weighing the potential implications for other Chinese tech firms seeking to expand abroad. Many see the TikTok episode as a warning of the growing political risks in international markets. Although the US executive order resolves immediate uncertainties about TikTok's ability to continue operating in America, the platform still faces a long road ahead. Compliance with the new ownership structure will require careful coordination between Chinese and US stakeholders. Furthermore, questions remain over how the app's core technology, including its powerful recommendation algorithm, will be governed. Beijing considers certain algorithms and data handling methods to be sensitive and has implemented regulations restricting their export. The TikTok case, therefore, highlights the increasingly complicated intersection of data governance, national security, and cross-border investment. It also raises the question of whether similar disputes could emerge over other Chinese platforms operating overseas. For now, China's official stance suggests a preference for dialogue over confrontation. Guo Jiakun's statement refrained from threatening retaliatory measures and instead urged Washington to foster a fair and predictable environment for all investors. Diplomats and analysts say the episode underscores the urgent need for clear rules and greater trust in managing technology flows between countries. Without such trust, they warn, the world risks deeper economic fragmentation at a time when global cooperation is vital. While the immediate dispute over TikTok may have reached a provisional settlement, the underlying tensions between the United States and China remain unresolved. The way both sides handle this and similar disputes in the future will shape not only bilateral relations but also the broader landscape of international commerce and digital innovation. Guo Jiakun's words, "We hope the US will provide an open, fair, and non-discriminatory business environment for Chinese companies investing in the United States," sum up Beijing's core message. It is a call for rules-based engagement rather than political intervention, and a reminder that the battle over technology is as much about trust as it is about trade.